Welcome to the series of webinars dedicated to the topic of teaching learners with exceptional needs. The first session today is on the topic of assessment, intervention, and the design for learning for learners with disabilities. My name is Yelena Cherkassets, and I'm a teacher of Lingograd Language Academy. First of all, let me introduce myself. As I've already said, I'm an English teacher here at Lingograd Language Academy. I've been teaching for more than 5 years, and I have experience teaching all ages and all kinds of courses. It includes business English, exam preparation, online teaching as well, and now I'm very much interested in the topic of inclusive education and working with the learners with exceptional needs. I'm also an Access Micro Scholarship Program teacher. I was teaching the generation of 2018-2020, and I will be a teacher of 2020-2022 generation as well. It's a great experience, and I apply a lot of my knowledge of working with exceptional needs students in the program as well. I'm also alumna of Flex program 2014. As for my recent certification, I've completed a course from TESOL. I believe you know about this organization. I've completed the course of teaching learners with exceptional needs, and a lot of materials from there are used in my session today. And I've just passed TKT Model 2 with the highest band. And I'm always focused on continuous professional development. And as I've already mentioned, for now, I specialize in working with learners with exceptional needs. Let's start our session with a little discussion. First of all, I would like to hear about your experience of working with students with some disabilities, teaching them, working with them, or maybe just some daily communication or relationships you have. Are there any volunteers who would like to tell about their experience of working with such kinds of students? Do you have any experience of working with students with disabilities or special needs? I can see that everyone has their videos off, their microphones off. So I really would like to hear from you, because I believe if you have come to this session, you must be interested in the topic of teaching learners with exceptional needs, which I believe means you might have such students, you might have already worked with such students, or you are going to. So I would like you to tell about your experience with those students. I don't think that anyone wants to share their experience. Okay, well, it's up to you. Let me then tell a couple of words of my experience working with such students. My first experience of working with students with exceptional needs started back in my university time. I studied in Novosibirsk State Technical University. And there is a separate faculty for students with exceptional needs, which means such students are provided with specific services, such as some speech assistant, some translation assistants, since there are some students who have hearing impairments, who have vision impairments, and they are not able or would have difficulty studying on usual conditions with other students. And After that, in my English teaching career, I've came across some students who required special services for their studies. It included some students with vision impairments. So I provided some special vision support for them, some visual supports. I've came across quite many students with ADHD, which stands for attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. There is a rising number of such category of students nowadays. And I believe over your years of teaching, in your experience, you might have encountered such students as well. As for what categories of students would be put under one with exceptional needs, that could be any kinds of students who require any special services. If you have any ideas of what categories of students would you put under ones with exceptional needs, I would like you to share your ideas. Maybe you can tell them, or you can write in chat. A chat is a great option for communication here too. So if you know any kind of students who you believe have exceptional needs, please share your ideas. And another question I would like you to answer to, or just to reflect on, is do you believe that the words we use to refer to disabilities are important? If so, why and how? Because I know many people advocate on this question. Some people believe that the word disability itself is not appropriate, since it puts some limitations on people. The people who have disabilities themselves also may advocate against using this word, as they don't see it as disability or any kind of limitation. They see it as their specific need. They see it as their unique trait, not as disability. So some people prefer to use words as special needs, exceptional needs, unique traits, or anything but not disability. However, it's considered to be appropriate word to refer to with to such categories of students. Okay, let's see what we have. Chat of some ideas. Yes, absolutely. We can use some more friendly words. Superpowers, why not? I've talked to people who have some hearing impairments. Actually, some of them were deaf, so they couldn't hear absolutely anything. And they didn't refer to themselves as people with disabilities. They said very interesting things. They said, like, you hearing people are the ones with disability, with the limits. Like, it's super uncomfortable, according to them, to have hearing. They believe we hear so much noise and this affects our life negatively. And their impairment is seen as superpower. If they don't want to hear us, they can just mute their hearing aids, and they have such option. So it's up to people to choose what wording to use. But later on in our session, we will be using words such as disabilities and exceptional needs. Those are considered to be formal ones. Okay, so if you have any ideas on this question, at any time, feel free to share them in chat. You are absolutely welcome. Now let's move on. First, we will start with looking at the categories, at official categories of student who can be considered students with exceptional needs. These categories are defined by IDEA. It is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It is an official act in the United States government. The categories under Kazakhstan state government are a little bit different. Since this field is not so much studied and examined in Kazakhstan. So I would like to refer to American Act, as it covers more categories of students with exceptional needs. As you can see, there are different types of disabilities. Some of them refer to more of physical impairments, such as orthopedic impairment, visual impairment, hearing impairment, including deafness, blindness, and deaf blindness. Some of disabilities fall under the categories of intellectual or emotional disabilities, such as autism. Traumatic brain injury can have different effects. Intellectual disability itself, and others. I would like to focus on specific learning disability, since this category, I would say, is not officially examined, is not officially diagnosed in Kazakhstan. This category includes the above mentioned ADHD, attention deficits and hyperactivity disorder. This includes also some other diagnoses, some other conditions which affect the process of learning. Usually those disabilities are not so obvious, and there may be no official procedure to diagnose them. As for emotional disturbance, it's any kind of depression or other emotional disorders, since they also may affect the process of learning. So as you can see, there's quite a wide list of disorders and disabilities and condition that may affect the learning process to different kind of extent. Different categories require different adaptation and different services for the learner. There are just some main principles of how you work with such categories of students. Please pay attention to these 6 principles that are listed here. Those include zero reject. It means that students with any kind of disorder or disability must be included under special conditions for learning. Another principle is appropriate evaluation. We'll talk about it a little bit later. It's how we define the student with a disability, how we examine them, and what conditions we make for them. Least restrictive environment also includes maybe special conditions of assessment for the student. We must exclude as many limits for them as we can. Individualized education is also a principle which means special conditions for certain students. Another important principle is parent participation. It's not only teachers' responsibility to work on providing special conditions for the student. It should be and it must be done with parents' participation, with their agreement. They must be aware of how the learning processes change, and they must support you on each of the steps. And procedural safeguards, it includes usually the collaboration of different specialists, and also that every member follows the same agreed procedure, including all the teachers, all the specialists who work with the students, and the parents too, and the students themselves. So again, these certain categories cover the students with special needs. They only define those students who have the access to special education, who have the right for special education. They do not determine the support and services provided for the students. What I mean by this is that what conditions are provided for one student with, let's say, with autism. This condition may not work for another student with the same diagnosis. Or it also doesn't mean that if the student has, let's say, again, autism, it doesn't mean that all students with autism must study on the same process with the same procedure. All the work done for students with exceptional needs is absolutely individual. There is no common scenario. There is no one agreed procedure for all. It's all individual, it's all unique, and it's all determined by these exact students' needs and what work best for them. And again, at any time, your student and their parents have the right to refuse from the services. If they believe they do not need or they don't want to use special education services, they may not. They always have the right to study on general conditions. So again, it's more of your role of a teacher to work with the parents and students and find out what works best for them. There are two main services we may offer to the students with special needs. We can put them in two categories: push-in services and pull-out services. Even by the name of this, you can get the main idea of how it works. In push-in services, the specialists work closely with students in the general classroom. It means the student is not taken out of the classroom for providing some special instructions or extra work. In the pull-out services, the specialists work with the students outside of the general classroom. It means that the student is usually taken out of the classroom for some extra work or for some special work, maybe for certain disciplines or for some certain training. As an example, you may have a student who has some, let's say, calculation issues like dyscalculia. In push-in services, this student will be provided special adaptations in usual calculus class or math class. In the pull-out service environment, the student will probably be studying all the disciplines with his or her classmates in general classroom, but for mathematics, the student will be taken to the special class or out of the classroom to work with a specialist. Basically, push-in service, it is what we call inclusive education. That's a more common term for this. Pull-out service, it is special education. So as for how it works in push-in services in inclusive education, the general education teacher, all the specialists, and all educators included in the process work collaboratively. They make a special procedure of working with the student, and everyone follows the agreed procedures. As for pull-out services, the general education teacher is usually not involved. You just work with your classroom as usually, and you may have this student occasionally. This student works separately with the specialist. In some schools, the pull-out services are more commonly practiced if they have this special education teacher. There are certain pros and cons of each of the services. We cannot say like which one is better. The pros of push-in services is that the students have the chance to study in the general classroom with their classmates, which provides them peer assistance, communication, and support. There are some negative sides, of course, such as more distractions from other students, and the need to provide special conditions in the general classroom. Sometimes it means to change the seating arrangements for the whole classroom, to get rid of some objects in your classroom and things like this. As for the pull-out services, again, it has some advantages, such as students have more quality time, more personalized interaction with the special education teachers, which sometimes can be more effective and provides faster progress for them. As for the negative sides of it, some students, especially the ones with, as we may call it, minor disabilities, minor disorders, they may feel uncomfortable as they will be occasionally taken out of the classroom. They may be questioned by their peers on what's wrong with them, and not all of them are ready to share such details. So again, it's up to you as the educator to decide which of the service works better for the certain student. Would they feel more comfortable in the push-in, with the push-in services, with staying in general classroom, just making some adaptations for them, or it would be more effective for them to work separately with special education teacher through pull-out services. Doesn't matter which service you decide to work with, your students with special education needs will go through assessment stage first. The assessment is done through SEP, which stands for Student Evaluation Plan. The main principle of SEP is that it must be non-discriminatory and multidisciplinary. What I mean by this is that no students should be left behind, and you should consider all the factors for the assessment. As for some factors you may consider are the academic performance of the student. Even if you only work with the students on one discipline, let's say English teaching, you need to assess their whole academic performance to see if the problems persist in all disciplines or only in language, or does the students have the same issues in their first language. You may see it by their performance, let's say, in the classes of Russian or Kazakh. Another thing to assess is their communication skills, to probably see if they have like language problems, if they have speech problems, or it's more of emotional problems. It can be assessed through their communication. You should also consider their general intelligence, their overall health, including hearing, vision, physical abilities, motor abilities, social, emotional skills, behavioral history. So basically, assessment covers all factors that may affect the learning process. Again, there is no official or common SEP. For different students, you may use different evaluation plans. For example, if you believe that your student has some emotional problems, some emotional disturbance, such as depression or something like this, you probably will not need to examine their motor abilities or their hearing and vision. You will focus on their social and emotional skills, their behavior, their communication skills, and their academic progress on other disciplines. While when you have a student, let's say, with cerebral palsy, you will focus on their motor abilities, like whether they can sit at the table, at the desk, or they need some special equipment to keep them seated. You probably will not focus that much on their behavior or something like this, or their emotional health at the moment. So this evaluation plan is done individually for every student, considering their needs and anticipating the issues they may have during learning process. So while making this student evaluation plan, you need to keep in your mind the factors you want to assess with the following idea: what things, what information I need to know about the student in order to make the classes for them comfortable and effective. Should I consider some physical skills that they have? Should I consider their interaction patterns that they prefer? Should I consider their intelligence to choose the topics that we will be studying or not, we will not be studying? You choose the factors you want to assess, the information you want to collect, and with the idea on your mind, how will you use this data in future? For example, you want to assess their motor abilities. You want to get the information how well can they sit, stand, and move. Such some cross motor skills. How will you use this information? Based on this data, you will decide what sitting arrangement you will make in the classroom. How will your student be moving or not moving around the classroom? Maybe you need to change the desks. Maybe you need to switch to some bean bags or things like this. Now we will do some practice. You will work on the student evaluation plan now by yourself. You will be working in 2 groups. You will be put in. So I will just keep them in one. Okay, a little change of plans. You will not be divided in the groups. You will work here in one group. If you can turn on your microphone and camera to actively participate in the task, I will greatly appreciate that. And it will give you some practice to see how it works in reality. Here on your screens now you may see the case of potential student with some exceptional needs. His name is Luis. Here is his story, his diagnosis, what he can do and what he cannot do. According to the information provided, Luis has some multiple issues with his health and therefore with his studying process. Your task is to make an evaluation plan for Luis. In your evaluation plan, you must include the factors you will assess, which skills will you assess, and how you plan to do this. There are no official or right procedures to do the assessment for your student. You just do what you think work best. For example, one of the diagnoses of Luis is cerebral palsy. In Russian, it is DCP. You may assess his motor skills in any way you feel doing it. You may provide him with some activity to complete to see how well he can do it. Maybe some game to play, some dynamic activity to do, or anything you see. I will give you 5 minutes to study the case of Luis and to come up with some ideas for the evaluation plan. What skills you want to assess and how you think you can do it. You can write your ideas in our chat. You can write something like, I want to assess ta-ta-ta by doing this activity. So let's take 5 minutes for completing the activity, for writing and sharing your ideas, and then we can see, we will see what you come up with. I can see there are already some ideas in chat to assess listening skills. Absolutely. Okay, by giving some pictures, and after listening to some words or sentences, Louis should just show me, are the students the right picture? Yes, yes. You may want, yes, to see how well he understands the speech. While doing the assessment procedure, you should also consider whether other factors do not affect the results of the activity. For example, Louis is diagnosed with retinopathy. It's some vision issue he has. So another issue that might come up in doing this activity, Louis may be not able to show the right picture because he doesn't see the picture well. You should make sure your pictures are quite visible, like they are not small, they are maybe of bright colors, they are on a proper distance placed to him. Since his vision issue may affect the result of this activity, and you may consider it as the listening issue. Like you may assume that, he didn't do this activity, he didn't hear what I said, or he didn't understand, while he just simply couldn't see the picture to choose. So probably, as for, in case of Louis, we should first of all assess his vision skills. He wears glasses, but it says that the glasses do not completely substitute the damage. So first of all, maybe you should assess his vision, like how far from the whiteboard he can be placed, or how big the illustrations, the visuals must be. Does he see, is he able to see all the colors, or maybe he has some color blindness as well? As for his language as well, maybe he will not be able to answer some of your questions if you just have a conversation with him. His language seems delayed, so it may affect his answers. You should also find out to what extent his speech is affected by his diagnosis. Is it more of some speech impairment, like pronunciation issues, or it's more of intellectual issue? He has some difficulties with building phrases, coherence and cohesion, or it's more of just his speech itself? Yes, absolutely, yes. So here we must be sure that he sees pictures, and it would be this kind of same assessment for all students with vision impairments. It's basically what you already do in your classrooms, I believe, especially in state schools. When you decide which desk the students will be seated at, you also assess their vision. Maybe they provide some official document, or you just place them at different rows, at different desks, and see how far they can see. If they have some issues looking or reading from the whiteboard, you may place them closer. That's the same procedure you'll be doing there. You'll be probably putting him like close to whiteboards and putting him farther and farther, or vice versa, putting him far and closer, see where he sees the best. You may also assess his physical skills, his fine and gross motor, to see whether he'll be able to do the writing, if he'll be able to do some maybe craft, since we do a lot of crafts with our young learners to see how long he can sit, stay, can he walk around the classroom. You can do it through different activities. You may just use some usual activities you do in your classroom. You do not need to do any special testing. Do not think that you are a specialist, like you're an ophthalmologist who needs to define how fine his vision is. No, what you need to find out is just where in the classroom must he sit. So he will see all the visuals. He will see what you write on the whiteboard. He will see the papers, the worksheets, what font you need to use for your worksheets. Maybe you need to make the font bigger so he can easily read as well as other students. So that's how the assessment works. Again, first, you defined what issue you anticipate the issues the student may have based on their diagnosis or the issues they already have. Second, you assess to what extent the issues exist, how much they affect the learning process, and how exactly they affect it. Like vision issues. Does it affect the color the student sees or doesn't see? Does it affect the distance? Does it affect the size of visuals you use? And things like this. Third, you collect all the data together. So you and other teachers may work collaboratively with this data. Maybe some of the data you get, some information you get will not be used for adaptations to your classes, but may help another teacher. For example, if you see that the student is color blinded, maybe it will not much affect the English classes, but it will greatly help the arts teacher. So the information will be used collaboratively. As a teacher, sometimes we may not fully understand what problems the student has, how they exactly affect the learning process, and if they really have these issues. Sometimes we may think, as the teachers, as the parents, that the child just acts out or is lazy or is not motivated or is tired or something like this, and we may not see the real issue behind this. What I would like to show you now is a little simulation of how the students with some of the disabilities, some of special learning needs may feel, especially students with some not such serious disabilities as some people may think. I will be put on the place of a student with learning disability, particularly writing issue. You will observe me doing a little writing activity. After I complete the activity, I will share with you some of my insights, how I felt during the simulation, what obstacles I had to overcome, and how it affected the learning process from my point of view. What I want you to do is to look at how I complete the writing activity and answer the same question. How do you think I will feel during this simulation? What obstacles I am trying to overcome while doing the activity? And how the learning process is affected from your point of view as a teacher who sees the student doing the activity. Let me share the screen with you. Okay, let's try some writing issues. So I will go through a simulation which will give me a sense of what it feels like when Your hand won't write what your brain is telling you to write. So that's some dysgraphia, most likely. So I'll be just typing what I see. Your task is to look and in chat write what issues I have, why I make the mistakes, why I struggle doing this activity. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've just observed me doing a writing activity with a lot of mistakes. And if you look at the keyboard of your computer or laptop, if you have one, you may see that the mistakes I was making was not because of my hands, my messy fingers. It wasn't the mistypos. I have good typing skills. I have good typing speed. Um, all the mistakes that appeared on the screen were not done by me. They just happened automatically. And I didn't see them. I could type the whole phrase only then realize I made a mistake. So why do you think it happened so? What obstacles I had when I was doing this activity? Okay, so I can see there are some ideas. The keyboard does not respond. You are doing it too fast. You are inattentive. You confuse. You did it inattentively. You confuse spelling. The thing is, I was absolutely focused. I was 100% focused. I was reading the phrase, looking at the keyboard, um, looking at what I'm trying to type. I was 100% focused on this. So it wasn't done inattentively. I was not going too fast. It was my regular speed. I was not hurrying. But see how long it took me. It took me a minute and 36 seconds to type what? 3 sentences, which is super slow for me. I could type a paragraph under this time. The keyboard works perfectly. My laptop works perfectly. That's how the student with writing issues feels, and that's what they do, and that's what they go through. They don't do it on purpose. They don't do it because they are inattentive, or their pen doesn't work, or their electronics doesn't work properly. The thing is, their brain and their hands, what they write, work a little bit separately sometimes. There may be different issues. They may do wrong spelling. Like, they know the rules of spelling. They can spell out the word perfectly. But when it comes to writing, here come these mistakes. And they are absolutely not because of their spelling problems. That's absolutely different thing. So that was a little simulation of just the students with writing disorder. So as a teacher, looking from this perspective, you may not even see the issue. You may think, the student was lazy and inattentive, and they just tried to do it very fast, and they didn't care about the result. The thing is, they care, they try to control it, they try to focus, but it takes them more effort to do this, and they need our support and our help to overcome these obstacles. You'll be given the link to the presentation later, and on this slide you can see there is a link to this simulation activity. I would like you to do the simulations yourself later today or another day when you have time. Try the simulations of this writing activity. There's also simulation of reading issues, attention issues, and concentration issues, organization issues. I highly recommend you to try these activities yourself, to walk in your students' shoes, to feel how they feel during studies, during doing the activities in your classroom. Okay, sorry, I'm back. A little bit connection issues. Okay, let me again get you back to the presentation. So in order to help our students with special needs, we will apply the principles of UDL. UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning. You may already know about this strategy, since it's a common strategy used for education, and it applies to all the disciplines, including English teaching and all other subjects. The main principle of UDL is that if you design for those in the margins, your building works better for everyone. It means that when you make these special conditions and special adaptation with the idea of helping students with special needs, the students, your regular students, the ones without such needs, will also benefit from this. That's the idea of UDL. You will watch a short video which will tell you about the main principles of UDL and how it works. While watching this video, answer these, after watching the video, I would like you to answer these 3 questions. First, who needs to use UDL? Does it apply to all disciplines, or it's only for English teaching? Secondly, who and how will benefit from UDL? Is it the teachers, students, parents, all people? And third, using UDL under the principles of UDL, what 3 areas you will provide multiple means for? Only the names of these 3 areas. Okay, now let me share the video with you.
This teacher needs to meet a curriculum goal, and she's got a very diverse group of students. And so does this teacher. And this one. Most do. In fact, research shows that the way people learn is as unique as their fingerprints. What does this mean for teachers of today? Classrooms are highly diverse, and curriculum needs to be designed from the start to meet this diversity. Universal Design for Learning is an approach to curriculum that minimizes barriers and maximizes learning for all students. Whoa, that's a fancy term. Universal Design for Learning. Let's unpack it a bit. Let's think about the word universal. By universal, we mean curriculum that can be used and understood by everyone. Each learner in a classroom brings her own background, strengths, needs, and interests. Curriculum should provide genuine learning opportunities for each and every student. Now let's think about the word learning. Learning is not one thing. Neuroscience tells us that our brains have three broad networks. One for recognition, the what of learning, one for skills and strategies, the how of learning, and one for caring and prioritizing, the why of learning. Students need to gain knowledge, skills, and enthusiasm for learning, and a curriculum needs to help them do all three. But every learner is unique, and one size does not fit all. So how do we make a curriculum that challenges and engages diverse learners? This is where the word design comes in. A universally designed building is planned to be flexible and to accommodate all kinds of users, with and without disabilities. It turns out that if you design for those in the margins, your building works better for everyone. Curb cuts and ramps are used by people in wheelchairs, people with strollers, and people on bikes. Captioning on TV serves people who are deaf, people learning English, people in gyms, and spouses who get to sleep at different times. UDL takes this idea and applies it to the design of flexible curriculum. UDL goes beyond access because we need to build in support and challenge. So how do we use the UDL framework to make learning goals, methods, materials, and assessments that work for everyone? First, ask yourself, what is my goal? What do I want my students to know, do, and care about? Then ask, what barriers in the classroom might interfere with my diverse students reaching these goals? To eliminate the barriers, use the 3 UDL principles to create flexible paths to learning so that each student can progress. Number 1, provide multiple means of representation. Present content and information in multiple media and provide varied supports. Use graphics and animation, highlight the critical features, activate background knowledge, and support vocabulary so that students can acquire the knowledge being taught. Number 2, provide multiple means of action and expression. Give students plenty of options for expressing what they know and provide models, feedback, and supports for their different levels of proficiency. Number 3, provide multiple means of engagement. What fires up one student won't fire up another. Give students choices to fuel their interests and autonomy. Help them risk mistakes and learn from them. If they love learning, they will persist through challenges. And remember, always keep in mind the learning goal. Get rid of barriers caused by the curriculum and keep the challenge where it belongs. And that's it. Okay, quick recap. Show the information in different ways, allow your students to approach learning tasks and demonstrate what they know in different ways, and offer options that engage students and keep their interest.
Okay, so that's actually the answer to the last question. What 3 areas you will need to provide different means for? It means to provide different options in these areas, in your classroom, in your teaching. Under the principles of UDL, you'll be providing different means of representation, different options of giving information, presenting information to your students. Different options of action and expression, which means different means of working in the classroom, moving around the classroom and things like this, completing the tasks. And different means, different options of engagement, which includes their motivation, communication, things like this. To better understand how UDL works, let me show you the table which may help you while doing UDL for your classes. You can get this table at the official website of udlguidelines.cas.org. There are different types of this table with or without the information, extra information explaining the principle of UDL. But basically, while doing this universal design of learning, you think of 3 areas of your teaching and of learning process itself. The why of learning, the engagement processes. You should provide different options for recruiting interest for your students, sustaining effort and persistence, and self-regulation. So here you will work with the area of autonomy and motivation, and achieving the goals sustenance. What motivates one student will not work for another student. So you shall provide your students with different motivation schemes, with different options for autonomous work and things like this. Then you should think of the words of learning, the information, the knowledge you provide. Think of different options of perception, language and symbol, and comprehension. Some students comprehend some oral information better. Some of them work better with visuals. Some of them are better at listening rather than reading. So if your student has issues with reading, why not to provide them with some audio recording of a book, and they may listen to it if it's not a reading lesson. And you shall also think of the how of learning, what the students do in the classroom, how they do the activities. Provide them different options for physical action, expression communication, and executive function. Your students don't have to be seated at all times. For example, different option for physical action. They may sit at the desk, they may sit on the bean chair, they may lay on the floor, or they may move around while doing some activity. If it's not like a crucial point to be seated, provide them with different options. This may help for students, let's say, with some hyperactivity disorder, to walk around the classroom, may help them to kind of let the energy go and focus better. They or provide them with some fidget, with like spinner, something to have in their hands, which also will help them to focus better, and it will not affect negatively the learning process. You can get more information about UDL, how to make and fill this table, and some ideas for different options of these different areas of learning at the website listed at the bottom of the page. Also, I will provide you with some other useful links and resources to get the extra information or to dive in the topic we've started studying. You can read more about the categories of disabilities. There are a couple sites that are great resources for educators, parents, and students with exceptional needs. There are different articles and tools that will help you in your teaching. On the website udlguidelines.cas.org is the table and detailed description of UDL principles, how to implement in your classroom, and so on. You may also, through the two bottom links, you may access the books about the exceptional needs and procedures to follow with them, what data to assess, to collect, and to use in designing the classes for such students. Here is the link to the presentation. You may scan the QR code, or alternatively, the link will be sent to you in email today after the session. The email that you use for registration. So you may, again, study the presentation. Feel free to share it with other educators. Feel free to use some pieces of it if you're planning to conduct any trainings, any workshops, or anything like this. I give you all the rights to distribute this information. If you have any additional questions, or if you are interested in collaboration on working on any projects, or if you would like to have some more workshops, maybe for your colleagues, or you would like to get more details, feel free to contact me at any time. You may contact me on Instagram, through a mobile phone, via WhatsApp, or give me a call, or through the email. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you follow our Instagram page of the Academy of Undergrad Language Academy, since we post a lot of useful materials, videos, and everything on here. I'm also responsible for making content for this Instagram, so I'll be sharing some information on working with students with special needs here as well. And that's the fastest way to be aware of future trainings coming on. We do a lot of professional trainings, workshop for the educators. And I'll greatly appreciate if you leave your feedback. There will be the link to the feedback form. Just a couple words, what you liked about our session today, what information you found useful, and what information you would like to have included in next sessions. Tomorrow's session will be at 3 p.m. and it will be conducted by another teacher of our academy, Anna Miletskaya. She will tell you more about work with students with ADHD and ASD. It is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder and autism spectrum disorders. There's a rising number of students under these categories. So I'm absolutely sure that these sessions will be also very useful for your work. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now in chat, or just ask me, or again, feel free to contact me at any time. Many thanks for attending the session. If you have any question, you may raise your hand, or you can just contact me later for extra information. We hope to see you tomorrow at the session 2. Again, thanks for coming. Thanks for participating. And have a nice day. The recording and the presentation, the links for the recording for the presentation will be sent to you in the email. Have a nice day and goodbye.